In this video, we will show you how to replace your power steering pump on this Jeep Patriot. This will be located along the passenger side of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. To do the power steering pump, the first thing we want to do is remove as much of the original power steering fluid from inside the system as possible. Let's start under the hood at the power steering reservoir. At the power steering reservoir, we're going to carefully remove our cap here. Just give that a quick inspection and we're going to gently rest it on top. We do not need to fully tighten this, but we do want to make sure nothing makes its way inside the power steering system as we continue on. Now at this point, to remove as much fluid as possible, I'm going to safely make my way underneath the front of the vehicle. Now as we make our way underneath the vehicle, we're just along the passenger side behind the subframe. This is where you can see your power steering return line making its way across this area. Now we're going to start disconnecting the power steering return line hose from the line itself. The line leads over towards the power steering rack. Right in this area, we have a small squeezable clamp. We're going to squeeze that clamp, we'll slide it out of the way, disconnect the hose. Fluid will come out of this area, hand and eye protection, and of course a collection receptacle. Let's use some pliers for this clamp. Slide it out of the way. Okay, it's starting to come off of there. If you need to, you could use a hose pick to break this free. It's common for them to be stuck in place. Now I'm going to be using a fluid extractor to remove as much fluid as possible from the steering system. After removing as much fluid as possible, let's continue on with resecuring this hose onto the line itself. Line it up, press it on there as far as possible, reinstall your clamp into the original position. When installing the clamp, you want to make sure you can see hose on both sides of the clamp. You don't want it hanging off at all. Just go ahead and give that a little tug, confirming it's properly secured. If your clamp does not hold this in place, go ahead and replace it with a hose clamp. Clean up your mess while we're under here, and we'll make our way out from under the vehicle, back inside the engine compartment. Now from up in the engine compartment, we're going to remove our upper engine cover. This is fairly simple overall. Just go ahead and take hold of it and lift it straight up and away. It has a couple mounting points, which are essentially rubber grommets sitting on top of locating tabs. We'll set that aside. To give ourselves a little bit more room to gain access to our serpentine belt tensioner, we're going to dislodge our coolant reservoir. For this, there's a 13mm headed mounting bolt holding it in place in the rearward upper corner. And as you move towards the front, once you have that out of place, you can slide the entire coolant reservoir forward to dislodge it from its forward mounting point. Now we'll just lift this up and out of position and rest it off to the side. You want to be careful not to spill any of that coolant. Now with that out of the way, we can make our way all the way down to the tensioner pulley. That's this one, down in this area. To release tension from our belt, we're going to be using a 16mm wrench directly on this bolt head. Go ahead and pivot this counterclockwise, releasing pressure from the belt, and we can slide the belt off of our power steering pump pulley. Slide the belt off the power steering pump. Now that we have the hose off the power steering pump pulley, we're going to continue on with removing our power steering hoses. Keep in mind, as you continue on with your hose and your line, there could still be fluid inside of either of these areas. We'll be extremely careful. For this upper hose, it has a squeezable clamp. We'll go ahead and squeeze that together and slide this up and out of place. If you find that this breather tube is in the way, typically you can just flex it or you can slide it out of place to remove it. I'm using some pliers for this. Just go ahead and slide it right up the hose. We'll slide the hose off of the power steering pump adapter here. Once you have it disconnected, a quick inspection of the hose, confirming it's still soft and pliable, not torn, worn, or damaged in any way. This looks fine. Let's set it aside. Now for the pressure line, I'm going to be using an 18mm for my fitting. Once you have the fitting broken free from the pump, you want to pay attention to the fitting and the line itself. As you can tell on my application, the line is actually stuck to the fitting and it's starting to twist the line a little bit. We're going to have to work this back and forth, eventually breaking it free from the line without causing any damage to the line. If you have a little bit of twist on this line itself, you're going to want to replace it. We don't want to have a restriction in our power steering system. There we go. Now we've got some movement. Just make sure our belt's out of the way here. We don't want any fluid making its way onto that. Now what you're going to find is once the fitting itself is loose, you're going to have to loosen a bracket holding the power steering pressure line in place. That bracket's going to be this way. We'll make our way all the way over towards our engine mount. To dislodge the mounting bracket for the power steering pressure line, we're going to use a 13mm on this mounting bolt. Now we can take hold of the line, give it a little tug, and pull it out and away from the power steering pump. Next, it's going to be time to start removing the power steering pump from its mounting bracket. For this, we're going to have to make our way through the power steering pump pulley ports. You can see that there's 4 of them making their way around that pulley. We need to try to align the ports with the corresponding areas where the mounting bolts are located. There's one right here. There's going to be one down on the bottom. And then there's a third one over on the far corner. There is not one up along the top area. Just go ahead and line these up as necessary. Let's start removing them. That second bolt is considerably longer than the first. Let's get this last one here. Take hold of your power steering pump. We're going to give it a wiggle and lift it up and out of its mounting bracket. You can pry it up if necessary. Remove the power steering pump. Now that we have this out of the vehicle, the next thing we're going to do is get this over to the bench. Now I have this power steering pump on the bench in a vise. We have to remove the adapter where our power steering pressure line goes into the pump. I'm using a 24mm wrench. Let's go ahead and turn that counterclockwise so we can remove it. A thorough inspection of that adapter. We need to confirm it is still in good usable order. We'll set that aside for now. There it is, friend. With the power steering pump out of position, the next thing we have to do is pay attention to our mounting bracket here. What we really want to do is have a look at the inboard side. On this side, you can see that you do have a threaded port. This is actually a bushing that can move from one direction or the other. When you tighten the mounting bolt, you're going to find that this bushing pulls towards the power steering pump. So what we need to do now for the installation of the new pump is to push this towards the center of the vehicle, closer towards the engine. You can use some penetrant here. We'll use a brass punch and a hammer. There we are, we got some movement from that. It looks as though it pushed towards the engine. That should be just enough that we can slide the new power steering pump into place. Before we do so, let's just make sure we clean and thoroughly inspect this mounting area. The main area to pay attention to is along all of the mounting points. You want to confirm that none of the ears are cracked or damaged in any way. Now it's time to install our brand new power steering pump. We'll make sure we have it in the proper orientation as we bring this into position. Continuing on, we're going to start in all 3 of our mounting bolts before tightening any of them. Keep in mind, the lower mounting bolt is the one that's longer than the other 2. They're all started in, let's snug them up, and I'm going to torque these to 19 foot-pounds. Now that we have the power steering pump in place and torqued, it's time to reinstall our serpentine belt. A quick note about installing your serpentine belt, you need to pay attention to each one of your pulleys. You'll find that some of the pulleys are grooved pulleys, you can see right along here. Others are going to be smooth pulleys, like this one right here, your idler pulley. As far as the grooved pulleys, you need to make sure that the belt's sitting properly inside of each one of the grooves. If it's off by even 1 tooth, it's going to cause an issue with the belt or even possible other damage. We're going to pivot that tensioner counterclockwise, and now we can take the belt. We're going to attempt to slide it over all the pulleys properly. Now, as you can tell, I have the serpentine belt making its way up and around the power steering pump pulley. It's perfectly seated. Same thing for the idler pulley. These 2 pulleys are the easiest to see, but you need to also pay attention to all other pulleys. After that, we'll continue on. Now, once you're sure you have your belt on there properly, the next thing we have to do is pay attention to our adapter that we had removed from the original power steering pump. That adapter is going to have a circular O-ring on this, so we're just going to go ahead and take it right off of there. We'll compare it to a brand new one and install a brand new O-ring onto the adapter. We have our adapter. Just going to give that a quick wipe, a thorough inspection, confirming it's not rotted or damaged in any way. This looks good. Now we're going to install our brand new O-ring on this area. Just go ahead and line it up, press it on there as far as possible. This is going to be a very tight fit. Bring it all the way down to the base area. Now let's install this into the power steering pump. Start it in by hand and snug it up with your 24mm wrench. Right there is bottomed out. Just going to take it a tiny bit further there. We want to make sure that that's properly secured in place. Now let's pay attention to the power steering pressure line itself. This also has an O-ring down on the fitting, so I'm going to remove that. We'll give it a quick inspection, compare it to a new one, and replace it. Just wipe this down. That looks good. We've got our new O-ring. I'll try to slide that on there without dropping it. Okay, it's on there as far as possible. I have some power steering fluid on a gloved finger here. We're just going to go ahead and coat that O-ring. Now let's get this in place. We're bringing it directly into the adapter. We're going to start it in by hand and snug it up with our 18mm wrench. Right there is bottomed out. Just a little further on that. Go ahead and take hold of the line. We're attempting to give it a wiggle. It should not be able to move around. If it can move around, your fitting's not tight enough. Let's go ahead and follow that line all the way to its rearward mounting point. We're going to use our 13mm mounting bolt, start it in, snug it up. Now it's time to reattach our fill hose to the top of the power steering pump. I'm going to be replacing my clamp. If you're reusing your original clamp, just go ahead and squeeze on it with some pliers. We'll get the hose into the proper placement and then go ahead and reapply the clamp. Let's just make sure we can see hose on both sides of that clamp as we tighten this. Okay, right there stopped. We're just going to go a tiny bit further. If you're using this type of clamp, you want to make sure that it doesn't go so far that it ends up skipping. If it does, you have to replace the clamp. We'll just take hold of the hose, give it a quick wiggle, make sure it's properly secured. It's time to reinstall our coolant reservoir in this area. A couple things to pay attention to. On the washer fluid reservoir, you have this one locating tab that protrudes out. The coolant reservoir is going to slide over this. As we bring it over into position, we also have to align our mounting bolt port. Now we can see the area on the coolant reservoir that's going to slide over the washer fluid reservoir. Press it in. You can hear an audible click from that. We have our mounting bolt. Start it in, snug it up. Double check to make sure that's properly secured. Continuing on, we're going to fill the power steering system. We're going to be doing this from right at the power steering reservoir cap. This is the fill point. Go ahead and remove that cap. We're going to continue on using a funnel so we don't spill anything and make a mess. Use the manufacturer's specified fluid. We're going to top off the fluid reservoir. After that, you're going to have to safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so both front wheels are off the ground so we can bleed the system. Okay, that's pretty full for now. Let's go ahead and remove that funnel. Now after I have the front wheels off the ground, I'm inside the passenger compartment. I'm going to put the key in the on position without the vehicle running. We'll go ahead and turn the wheel all the way to one side, pause, and then all the way over towards the other. As I'm doing this inside of the vehicle, you're going to find that at that power steering reservoir, the fluid will start to become aerated. Air bubbles are going to make their way up as fluid makes its way down. You may have to continuously top off the fluid. Okay, let's go ahead and top this off while we continue on. Now after repeating that process several times, we're going to have to double check to make sure our fluid is topped off. Looking in between our washer fluid reservoir and our coolant reservoir, we can see along the side of our power steering reservoir, there's a line, and that's the fill line. The fluid right now is a little bit low, so I'm going to top it off up to that line. Once we've completed that, we're going to reinstall our cap and start the vehicle, turn it right back off after approximately 5 seconds, and triple check our belt routing. Make sure that's nice and tight. Now that I started and turned off the vehicle, I'm going to have a quick look along this area. We need to confirm that we're sitting on each one of the pulleys properly. As I mentioned before, if the belt is off by even one tooth on any of the grooved pulleys, it's going to get destroyed and it could possibly cause other damage. Once you've completed that, you can go ahead and start up the vehicle again and let it run for a short while. We need to make sure we do not have any power steering fluid leaks anywhere. And then, of course, triple check our fluid level. Now we finished running the vehicle and we're sure that we've removed all the air from inside of the power steering system, cleaned our mess, and triple checked for leaks. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall our engine cover now. As far as that engine cover, you just want to go ahead and get it into the proper position. We need to be able to gain access to our oil fill and where our engine oil dipstick is. Double check to make sure it feels as though it's properly in line and press it in. We'll just give this a quick wiggle, make sure it does not lift up and away from the engine. Okay, friend, we finished our installation. The next thing you want to do is go ahead and get your vehicle back on the ground as it needs to be, close the hood, take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.